Hello, namaste. Welcome to podcast with Sneha, powered by Oh My Dog. I'm very, very thankful to all my guests before this who have graced us here with their presence, and we've had multiple important conversations on various topics, which plays a big part in creating awareness. After a short gap, we are back again with one of our podcast episodes, and today we have another special guest with us. Her name is Shweta Iyer, and I have known her through my journey into animal welfare. Shweta primarily works as a business consultant for one of the big four firms. However, the biggest passion of her life, apart from her job, is to work with animals. She's a very, very passionate human being who has dedicated a part of her life to animals. She's been into the rescuing field and has been working as an active feeder for the last 4 to 5 years. And now, slowly, she is planning to transition into a much bigger role in the world of animals. We'll come to that, and we'd like to hear the story from Shweta itself. Thank you so much. Welcome, Shweta, on Podcast
Hi.
with Sneha. I'm
Hi.
so glad to have you here. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for being a part of this and to sit with us today and have this conversation. We would start with wanting to know a little bit about yourself and how you got into this field of rescuing.
This is what I have always felt is that even as a kid, I was actually very fond of dogs. I have always kept telling my parents that, come on, let's get one, let's get one, let's get one. But of course, at that point of time, I didn't know what
Yeah.
responsibilities were in general.
Mhm.
Forget about this dog, but we didn't know as a kid what responsibilities
Right.
were. Of course, I never got a dog. And as any typical parents, my parents would just come and tell me that ja jeele apni zindagi, but after getting married.
The same
So
old.
that's how it happened. So I could never get a dog. This I just fulfilled whatever I could with my community dogs that I had in my building. I used to play with them. I used to feed them. But yes, of course, this also was given to me, inculcated in me through my parent, that's my father, who was also very kind and gentle with dogs. He was very fond of them, and that's how I also understood animals and all of that. And yeah, at that point of time, when I was a kid, it was very plain and simple to just play with them, feed them, and all of that. But as I grew, I understood what animals were and all of that. And my perception about animals, and not just dogs but other animals as well, changed completely when Minnal came into my life. I got him in around 2022. That was also a very, what do you say, like a surprise. I was not planning to get one that immediately. I was planning to get, I had thought about an idea, and I, that day when I sat down, I thought that I will get one 6 months or 1 year later. First, let me read about how a dog should be, which breed I want to take. Do I want to take a streety? Which dog will be? As I'm the first pet parent, I had to do that research. One day I was just sitting and I was talking to an uncle who also happens to be very fond of dogs. He had just rescued some retriever puppies. He lives in Kotagiri. And I was just telling him, he was just sharing that story with me. And I was just telling him, even I'm planning, but not now. This was when I just moved to Bangalore in 2022 Jan.
Right.
That's when I thought I'll get it after a year. But when
After
I,
like settling down a bit.
correct, settling down a bit, I just moved into a place, and I was talking to my uncle, and my uncle's like, dude, I've just got a retrievers. Why don't you just take one? And out of all excitement, I just said yes. Without planning, nothing. I said yes. And in Feb, first week, at 7th of Feb, he was in our house.
That's lovely.
And of course, I had a 1 month gap to read about dogs and all. And when I got him, I just thought that he was just going to be a dog. He was just going to be a buddy and all of that. But when he came in, it was a complete change. I understood what a parent actually is. I won't say as pet parent, but what a mother,
Yeah.
a parent actually is. And that feeling of motherhood, he just gave me that. And a lot of other things also changed when he came. I understood what rescuing is. I understood what actually street dogs go through on a day-to-day basis. Not just street dogs, a lot of dogs that are inside the house as well, where parents are not able to understand them. If they are in pain, why are they whining, why are they barking? It's and that's how I started studying about them. Then I started rescuing. I have like 7 8 dogs in my street. I just feed them, I rescue them wherever I can. If there's someone injured, I would do that. And that's how actually I got into all of this. Then I did fostering also for a bit. I thanks to you, I got an opportunity into adoption drives and all, where I could actually help other people with you, other understand why you should adopt a dog, and if you're planning to, what you should do and all. That's how I got into all of this.
Yeah, lovely. I do want to say here, because like you mentioned about the fact that you researched a little, you learned a little about
Yeah,
dogs
yeah,
before getting them in,
yeah,
which is I think so important for everyone who likes dogs and wants to get one someday, not just dogs, cats, or
yeah,
any other
yeah,
pet. That
yeah.
it's so important that you take a little bit of time to
Correct.
understand
Yeah,
which breed or street dog or any kind of a rescue that you
yeah,
want to bring, to know a little about their nature, their history, and how to handle them,
yeah.
rather than realizing later that you are unable to.
Correct,
So
correct.
that's something really. I'm so glad that back in those times also you had the insight to do something
Yeah,
like that.
and only I think via research is when we understand that dogs also need to learn. They also need to be trained. Of course, there is no specific schools here
Right.
established for them,
Yeah.
that we can't send them. But in the house, homeschooling we can always do for
Yeah,
them, which is
yeah.
basically the dog training.
Correct. Rescue work can be obviously draining physically, mentally, financially. So I just wanted to know, once you started it and you started having so many different experiences while rescue, what did you learn? How much of it is a pressure, and how do you go through whenever you find it tough?
Of course, rescuing does take a toll on you
Mm.
mentally or physically. I
Mhm.
don't know if I should say this, but financially it's been easier because I am working. So
Of course,
financially,
there's
so
nothing wrong
there
in
is
that.
a
Yeah.
backup there. I remember a lot of these rescues where I didn't know what to do when, say, suppose if I have a few puppies and where I'm looking for adoption and all for them. These are streeties and they don't get adopted for a long time, where people keep on, the answers that they give is that no, they are indies, we need we need some breed dogs and all that, or she's a female, or you can't, I need a female but I don't want to spay. There's a lot of reasons that they give. Those come as rejections all the time for
Yeah.
you. And if you make 10 calls, probably all 10 calls would just be a rejection. That way it takes a toll there, because you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And you don't know how then these dogs would live. Will they live a good life? Do I have to put them back on street, or what do I do? At that point of time, I actually I have so many times just reflected, seen myself in mirror, reflected that whatever I'm doing for a good cause. Even if they don't get adopted, there is another way, some or the other way, that you will be able to find. If there is nothing, last chance, it's on you, because you took up the responsibility.
Correct.
You have to commit.
Hmm.
And if nothing happens, you have to take care of them, because you took that responsibility, and which is, I think, fair for
Yeah.
any person who has taken that responsibility.
Yes.
Consistency and commitment is something that you would require in rescuing.
Yeah.
Of course, it's taken a lot of efforts, and I think I have even sat down and cried like crazy, that oh my god, what do I do now? I'm not finding anyone. But in the end, I know that I'm doing it for a good cause.
Yeah.
And nothing comes easily to anyone.
Yeah.
You need to put that hard work. You will go through ups and downs. And I think that's how I've been convincing myself.
Yeah,
through it.
no, that's so correct. I completely agree with you and resonate, because even now, if somebody calls me in distress saying that, ma'am, I've rescued this puppy or this kitten from the road, or somebody has dumped them, what do I do now? And then I tell them this is the protocol, get them checked, get them vaccinated, and then are you going to keep the puppy? Sometimes they say yeah, but sometimes they say no, ma'am, I can't keep the puppy. My first question to them, not being rude, but just trying to tell them that why did you then pick up? Because it's important for people to know, for all people who likes and loves animals and cannot see them in distress, if you are picking them up, it's your responsibility.
Absolutely.
After that, finding a home for them or getting them rehabilitated, of course you will try, But if you don't get a immediate response, you have to be prepared to take that dog or the cat with you till you figure out something.
Correct.
Because it's not going to be instant.
Correct.
That definitely that commitment and that factor of being responsible should be there. I think that's very important for new rescuers or people who are newly into this sector should know this and should understand this, and only then take up that responsibility. So many people think of rescuing as saving lives. You have spoken about helping them feel safe, seen, and understood. That's a powerful distinction. Can you talk a little about that shift in perspective?
Yes. As and when I started doing rescuing or understanding dogs, also along with the canine behavior courses that I'm doing and learning, I've understood that rescuing, yes, which right now people think as saving an injured animal, getting adoption, getting them adopted, and all of that. But at the same time, I also feel that rescuing is not just physical, it can also be emotional. Even if you treat an injured dog, or even if you find an adoption for a street dog, or even a breed dog for that matter, there are a lot of other fears, anxiety, depression, sadness that dogs go through, which is also, I think, a part of rescuing. You are rescuing them. Yes, whatever we do as in adoption drives and everything is absolutely wonderful, where we are trying to find them homes. But rescuing, as per me, what I feel doesn't stop there. After I bring that dog home, also, I know that dog is going through a lot of issues. May or may not necessary all dogs go through it. Some dogs are just comfortable and calm and all that. But even the street dogs down there, we feed them always, we take them to hospitals if they are injured. But after that, also, they are still living in that fear. With humans, what if one human comes and attack me? What if tomorrow I come under a car? What if a dog comes and attacks me out of nowhere? I feel we need to bridge that gap as well.
Yes.
Which is why I had that distinction where my rescuing doesn't stop just there. My rescuing also comes in after the dog gets adopted. How he is in that environment, if he has anxiety, depression, sadness, the dog needs to feel safe wherever he or she is, be it the streets or be it home.
Yes. I'm so glad I asked this question, because this is the place where this insight and understanding is required. And definitely, like you said, for a layman, mostly the part is about, oh, I have to pick up the dog, get the dog treated, and you've rescued. But definitely, rescuing does not stop there. It's a whole process till the dog becomes completely accustomed and what we call like a happy dog. Because definitely lot of these rescued dogs, whether they're street dogs or pedigree dogs, they have some kind of an attached trauma. Some have it, some of it is seen through their behavioral or physical changes and things, and some maybe you don't see it immediately but you see it later on. So of course there's a specific kind of training and all that which is required. Not everyone is going to understand, but the basic, that once you have gotten the dog off the street, take care of their emotional well-being as well, along with their physical well-being, which is like food and medication.
The basic needs of food and medication.
So definitely that is also a big part of rescuing. And
because we see a lot of cases, I think even you have come across, where someone's picked up a dog, they are happy, I've picked up a street dog, I've done a good cause, which is obviously they've done a good deed. But when the dog comes home, it's a new environment. The dog, be it anxious, they might also get aggressive. I'm in this closed walls, have to deal with some people, I'm not able to go here, go there as I used to. Everything is new, sounds are new, the surface itself is new, because they were on the concrete, now they are on the tiles. So everything becomes very intimidating and overwhelming for them, actually. That can get into aggression, and then we get calls that, oh my god, my dog is aggressive, he bites, but we don't get into the root cause. And then the dog again lands up in the streets.
I think, and that's like a constant fight, right? That we are all fighting.
Which is why I say that rescue doesn't end there. Rescue is a long way.
Because it's very, I again can relate here very well, because both my dogs are rescues. One is a indie and one is a pedigree dog. But I can see the clear distinction between their behaviors, because even if the indie is rescued, but she doesn't have a trauma attached to her rescue.
Yeah.
However, the other dog, the Shih Tzu that I have, she has come from such a traumatic situation from where she was rescued. I can see through her body language, initial days at least, that I would find her sitting and staring at nothing, which she used to do when she was locked up. You can understand that this is
Yeah.
because of the trauma.
Yeah.
So you have to bridge that gap to make.
Yeah.
So even if now she's fine and she's much happier and healthier, but that aspect in her personality is still there. And I also I'm not an expert to completely understand how to eradicate
Yeah.
that. So I would, in that case, obviously come to someone like
Okay.
you
Yeah.
who has the education about understanding dog behavior, their personality and behavior. Did you understand when you were just a foster parent or a rescuer, compared to now when you have done a proper training on understanding animal behavior? I also wanted to ask you, before we jump into more deeper questions about your first pet, Minnal. Just wanted to ask you how he was as a dog, and what was the nature like, and what was the connection with you when you first got him?
Minnal, honestly, like any other puppies, he was a very calm puppy. He never had any tantrums, no destruction when he came home and very new to our house. And we used to keep saying that he's like this old soul in a young body type. But actually, when he came as a puppy, a lot of things that we read about retrievers was not matching. He was extremely calm as a puppy. He was not at all food motivated. So training him was very difficult because the trainers who came, they used treat as the first thing to teach some treat to train the dog. So it was very difficult to train him for anything.
Wow.
But
That's very unlike a retriever.
yeah, it's
generally.
unlike a retriever. And then after a few weeks or so, we actually took him to the vet and all, because when we researched and when we saw, and the trainers also told us it's unlikely that a retriever is this quiet. We did take him on vet visits also to understand, as in, is it medically something wrong with him? The vet said no, there's nothing medically wrong, he's all fine. And the vets actually made us understand that every dog has a different personality. Just because retrievers are labeled as naughty puppies, food motivated and all, not necessary that
All
you get
retrievers
all
will be.
retrievers like that. There can be some difference in the genes of how they were bred, or how he came out, how his parents were and all. There could be a difference there.
Yeah.
And that's how we accepted that this is our dog. And we had the time of our life because he was very quiet. He never distracted anything. He never went for chewing anything.
Very lucky in terms of having a retriever.
Yeah. And everything was okay. We figured out how to train him later with toys, and we got chicken pieces and all, like the actual chicken pieces and not just treats from this. So we used to cook those and then use it as a treat. We found out many ways to train him, and he learned all the basic behavior. He came to us when he was 4 months old. By the time he was 7 months, he got a tick fever, which turned out to be Babesia gibsoni, and he had IMTP as well. That is something that we had to struggle for at least 3 months, where we couldn't take him out for a dog walk. We couldn't train him at that point of time because he had to be at bed rest. And then he became even more quieter because he was unwell. And then once he was all okay and medications went right, 3-4 months, it was all fine. And then we restarted it. And now, as a teenager, and he's now 4 years. So from the time he actually got well, and then oh my God, his personality flipped. He became so food motivated. He became so naughty. As in, everything came out on him. And
now he's showing the true colors.
He's showing the true colors. And then we had to train him again because at that point of time, I actually saw a lot of changes in him. And even during the first 1.5 years itself. So that way, because of him, is why I want to also get into all this animal welfare and get deeper into understanding animals. That's why I also took canine behavior courses, and I'm still doing it. it's all because of him, because I think he has taught me a lot.
Yes.
I think he's trained me, not the other way around. He's taught me
Definitely.
how to be a good human being and a good parent.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
That's-
Wonderful. That's so amazing, because I'm sure you've had varied experiences in terms
Yeah.
of when you have fostered rescues versus
Yeah.
this particular pet of yours who has had such transition in behavior. Like rightfully said again, that all dogs will be different in nature.
Yeah.
When I come to that, I would just like you to tell our viewers maybe like a very distinct rescue story that you really remember, or something very impactful.
There is this one dog, you also know her, Dalu. She was bought by a very wealthy family who was living in HSR. But for some reason, they had to abandon her. When we went to ask reasons, they were actually real estate agents. So quite wealthy, nothing that they could not have a dog. They said that the place where they were living in, the owner did not allow to get dogs. So they had just randomly kept her on streets. Whenever I used to take my dog for a walk, I used to just see her all the time loitering here and there. And she was actually a female lab indie mix. She was still a puppy, very smart, very intelligent, and I kept seeing her all the time. And their office was there only, so I thought they were probably just leaving her there just to roam around and all. And then a few days passed, and I saw that even in the night when the office was not there, nobody was there, she was there only. And I was very curious. The next day I went and asked them, and they came and told, if you want to take her, please take her, we can't take care of her.
Oh gosh.
I was like, okay. And I spoke to my family and I told them that, listen, I want to find somebody for her. And just give me a timeline of 1 month. I'll find someone or the other for her, because she's very intelligent, smart. She can be trained as well. So why not? And that was an opportunity for me also to trade someone else other than my dog.
Yeah.
So why not do it? And my family also supported. They accepted, and I got her home immediately. And when I took her home also, she was such a lovely dog. She knew how to adjust with my dog. My dog does not like other dogs, to be very honest. So I've never really socialized him and all. He just likes to coexist. He's like, you are there, I'm there. And she actually even learnt on her own how to behave with my dog. And she was in our house for almost a month, where we were continuously trying to find for rescues and all of that. And she was so attached. I remember days when I could not find anyone for her. I used to sit on the couch and I used to cry. And she used to come to the couch, sit with me, and she used to lick my face. And she used to just sit there. My dog has an avoidant attachment style. The moment he sees me cry, he'll run away. He's like, I don't want to get with, please come on with, I don't want to handle this, you handle this. But she was the other way around, which is why I also feel that female dogs are a lot more
Emotionally connected
than male dogs. She was very nice and everything. I think whenever she pulled on during walks as well, if I told her no, don't pull, she used to immediately understand. It was very nice with her. And I even brought her to one or two of your adoption drives, I remember. And we got a few potential people as well who could
Now
who
she's
was
finally gone to a
she's
good
finally
home.
gone to one home. There were so many people who reached out to me, who already had dogs, who wanted her, but for some reason it never clicked. Some of them actually just wanted her, and they told her that we'll not spay her, because we want her to make
Puppies,
babies. But I don't know how long will they do that. Will they actually do it? So I was very scared, and I had actually made a rule that I will only spay and give it to you. I don't want anybody to misuse, because there is always a risk, even if
100%.
the other, because whomever I'm giving her a stranger. There were so many people, and half of them didn't even want to come and see her. They were like, just come and you see our house. We have a big house. We are a wealthy family, so you can really come and see how big our house is. You just come and drop her and go. Like, I can't do that. The dog has to get attached to you, not I don't have to see your house or you or how much rich you are. And one day then I got a call from an auto rickshaw driver who lives in Rajaji Nagar. He asked me, we speak the same language, we speak Tamil, so he also knew Tamil. We spoke in our language, and he asked me that why do I want to come and see her. Is it okay? I was honestly not very sure because I don't know what conditions they live in. Will they actually
Be able to
want to take
take
care of her? Because dog is a responsibility
Yeah.
and expense.
Yes.
He immediately came with his entire family, two kids, wife,
Oh.
mother, in that auto rickshaw.
So lovely.
Yeah, he came and he saw the dog and he's like, yes, I want her. I told him the conditions that I want to spay her. He's like, yes, ma'am, you do anything, we just want her. And till today, it's been a year that she's adopted. Till today, he sends me videos of her
That's so
showing
amazing.
how happy she is. They don't have a big house or
Yeah,
anything.
that is not
It
required.
doesn't require. They just have one BHK room and a small terrace above, and that's it. That's all. And there
Yeah.
are 6 people who live in that family.
And the fact that they are taking
yeah,
such good care of her just by loving her and feeding her,
yeah,
that's like a very very inspirational story. I mean,
yeah.
amazing story. You should post about it maybe someday.
Yes,
Talk
I
to them,
should.
take a video and post it up.
Yeah,
Because definitely these kind of families who
Yeah.
decide to take the responsibility of another living being irrespective of their own financial
Yeah.
condition is something very very commendable,
Yeah.
and definitely should be spoken about as an inspiration.
He takes her on auto rickshaw drives.
That's
He
so
he
beautiful.
actually takes school kids and all. He drops school kids. He takes her there in that
the
auto
front.
rickshaw,
Oh.
and she sits very nicely,
Oh,
and
wow.
she goes around, and he sends videos, and it's so amazing. And I'm like, it doesn't matter how much money you have, how big
Yes.
house you have, or how much of experience you have as well with dogs. It's, I think, just the heart that
Yeah.
you need to get a dog.
Definitely. Lovely, amazing story. Of course, all of this sounds so much of hard work, so much of effort, so much of to and fro, physical movement as well.
Yeah.
I also wanted to touch upon this factor that you have a full time job, you're a professional. As of now, you're still working and everything. How do you manage this? And then when you are into an active rescuing and then fostering and then getting
Yeah.
them adopted, how do you manage to do this, or and where do you know where to draw the line and stop for the day?
Honestly, when it comes to animals, I don't think I've drawn a line, because I remember I used to go back where I lived in HSN. There were pigs and all, and small. They had given birth and all. I used to go to my family and I used to tell them that, hey, listen, no, that pig is very cute. Should I just bring them?
Oh gosh.
I think others have drawn a line for me, but I could never draw a line there. But yes, it has been hard sometimes to manage both. And luckily, the office and the team that I'm working with, my bosses and all, they also have dogs.
Oh, lovely.
And they also are actually active in rescuing and all
Yes.
of that. They help a lot. Even with the courses that I'm doing right now, they are very active in sharing also that, listen, see, we have somebody in our office
That's amazing.
that with work is also doing something else. Please, they also help me in getting clients that
That's
way.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. To have an organization, again, you have so many things to be grateful for and so many things that you can actually talk about, you know,
Yeah.
through your platform or through us. We would love to, you know, to know of an organization who's also supporting someone like you and or also pitching in to help you in whatever way possible is again very commendable. 3 cheers for your organization and 3 cheers for that auto rickshaw bhaiya who finally took the Lou home. And the thing is, because I have seen her and met her in my adoption drive, and I also know a couple of leads, and now when I look at it, it's such a striking contrast where she went compared to the proper settled wealthy well-to-do houses who had so many conditions and so many this and that, and it was so much more effort to coordinate with them. And she went, I think she went to, I think the simpler people are, any person who is into animal rescuing, no matter how much money you have or you don't have, but in your mindset, the simpler you are, the better pet parents they become.
True.
So that's something which I have realized in my in my experience of seeing these rescues and having two rescues myself, that I never claim and say that I'm a rescuer. I never say, because a lot of people randomly pass on my number to some certain people and they call me and they're like, ma'am, I'm calling you up so and so reference and I have a rescue dog. I'm like, I am not a rescuer, so I can't take the dog in, but I can guide you, or I can
Correct.
connect you to someone, or I can post your
Yeah.
rescue story or things like that. But I am not a rescuer because I am not good at that, or say I'm
Yeah.
not hands on that. But
Yeah,
I am hands on certain other things. I would say I'm, because I'm vocal, I feel like I can be a big part of creating awareness, or and I try to do it in my way. We should all, I think, keep a very simple mindset when it comes to animals and not complicate it so much.
I think we all should be like animals only. Simple,
We
not
were,
complicated.
we were all animals,
Correct. Then,
scientifically speaking. And
but we
it's
all
just,
develop so much, we complicate things. I
Yeah.
think we should just have a very simple life like how dogs have.
just simple thought process.
Yeah, thought
Treat
process.
dogs as any other living entity, and I would say that rather it's very easy to discard and misunderstand a behavior. It's more difficult to take a step and try to understand dog
Correct.
behavior psychology through courses and educational, keeping yourself into that education to understand. So that is a difficult process. So that's like a full studying.
Correct.
Rather than just discarding, saying, oh my god, the dog is barking. And the other day in some conversation, somebody was saying that if a street dog is coming at me with his teeth showing, what do you call that? So I said that can be called as playing, that can be called as coming to you for attention or asking for food. This is a very wrong concept that if a dog is showing teeth and coming at you, means that he's going to bite you.
Correct.
Of course, whenever these conversations happen, people say, you can't expect any normal person to. But then talk about it, ask, like you said very candidly, which I so appreciate. Even when you were a first time pet parent and you got your pet, you didn't understand why your pet is coming and staring at you or whining, right? But you didn't hesitate to ask for help. Even if a lot of people don't prefer animal trainers, they say no, hum video dekh lenge, we will train them at home, which is okay. But sometimes you need a professional to give you that insight if you are totally unaware of certain things. As a first time pet parent, you were also very not sure. Even if you understood that my pet will not bite me, maybe my pet is a little in discomfort, that which is why the pet is doing it. But what's that discomfort? Is it hunger? Is it pain? Is it just attention? That is something which obviously a professional trainer can give you because they've studied about it. For you as a pet parent, that was a very good call, that you seeked help, you asked for help, and which is also a big part of whether it's rescuing, whether it's parenting, fostering, that if you don't know or don't have enough information about something, there's nothing wrong in asking and getting that information, rather than just discarding and saying I can't deal with it.
Correct.
Definitely, that's why I think I strongly recommend trainers. I always talk about why it is so important to train your dogs. Whichever dog you get into socialization, like the dog who are outside, who can fend for themselves, who can scavenge for food, that's different. But the ones whom you decide to socialize, bring indoors, you have to be able to train them.
Absolutely.
So if you can't do it yourself, ask for professional help. Definitely a very, very important thing to do. I wanted to dwell on this certain questions, such as that you've been part of several adoption drives or any other kind of community initiatives in terms of animals. So, from your experience, how do you feel that? In what way does these awareness events change people's perception? How impactful it can be for society? To these adoption drives or awareness programs.
So these awareness programs like adoption drives, they create visibility, and visibility creates connection. And I think it's very important that when people come to these adoption drives, I feel they feel connected to the dogs rather than looking them as just street dogs or just a random dog. When they know about what is actually happening, or they actively participate in these drives, they would see them as individuals with different personality and not just a random street dog.
Correct.
And I think that's very important. And the more people learn about dogs through adoption drives or whatever other
Yeah.
awareness that we are doing, the more they will know that a dog
Hmm.
cannot be labeled as aggressive because he's barking, or cannot be labeled as a naughty dog or
Yeah.
something, or a diseased
Yeah.
dog. Or it's, I think awareness, it's
Yes,
important
yes,
that
yes,
way.
definitely. And also, I think the myth attached to any dog seen on the street that they are all rabied.
Yeah,
That's also like
correct,
a great,
correct.
great myth, which I think through awareness drives
Yeah,
or
yeah,
adoption drives or
yeah,
programs, workshops,
yeah,
it can also be kind of addressed to
correct.
a lot
Because
of extent.
a lot of people, this has been a very common complaint from all
Hmm.
parents or people that we've come across, that dogs chase
Yeah.
vehicles or cycles or children running.
Hmm.
That's because all these are genetically connected to that one Indian breed that
Hmm.
we have, who were bred to actually chase. And all these dogs, street dogs that are there, they have that innate behavior in them.
Hmm.
You cannot change genes how much ever you have. You will still have some behavior
Yeah.
that's innate.
Like
So
how
if
we say nature versus nurture.
correct.
Yeah.
If a dog is chasing, he's chasing because that's something that's innate
Inbuilt.
in him.
Hmm.
That is his own behavior.
Hmm.
He's not just because he's chasing doesn't mean he'll go bite.
Correct.
He'll
Correct.
just chase. These are some things that I also learned while I was learning my behavior course.
Hmm.
That the dogs do certain things because of
Some
something.
biological evolution
Correct.
into them.
There is science
Basically.
behind all of
Hmm.
this. I think through these adoption drives and the awareness also that you
Yes.
do,
Yes.
that you go and do from school to
Yeah.
children, I think it's amazing, and we need to create that awareness
Yeah.
for people to understand.
True. True. Another thing I just want you to tell us today, that if anyone who is like a first time rescuer or going into the rescuing sector, and they want to start helping animals in some way or the other, and but they're very like unsure, have a lot of doubts and concerns, what are like the basic things or advice that you would like to give them?
See, I've seen that when a lot of people who call themselves dog lovers, they just want to give it all. I have
Hmm.
seen people who come there, but when they give it all, somewhere they break and they're
Hmm.
like, oh shit, I've taken up all. So I've taken up so much that
Now
I'm
they're
not able
overwhelmed.
to, now they're
Yeah.
overwhelmed and then they stop. I would really suggest that start small. Start
Yes.
with one street dog in your locality or your area, or start with your own dog if you
Yeah.
have one. Start there. And if you want to go outside to the street dogs, start with one, then
Hmm.
grow, and then start communicating with people in
Hmm.
the area, like how we also communicated, because we
Yeah.
were all local
Yeah.
rescuers. Start talking to people.
Get information.
Get information. Very important to talk to vets as well, because
Hmm.
vets have a lot of information
Yeah.
that a lot of us don't know, because
Yeah.
they go through literally probably 50 to 100 dogs in a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's very important to talk to people,
Hmm.
understand, talk to local rescuers. If you want to
Hmm.
rescue, talk to local rescuers. And then if they want you to help, guide them. You don't
Hmm.
have to
Or assist them
bring
in
assist
a
in,
rescue.
correct. Don't bring home a dog and
Yeah.
suddenly and do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Assist first.
Hmm.
Go to shelter homes. They also on a
Yeah.
daily basis look for
Hmm.
adoptions,
Also,
right?
maybe find a shelter, local shelter, and go spend time
Yeah,
there.
go spend time there.
Yeah.
Start small. Don't start with a lot of things without information.
Yeah.
That's right.
Hmm.
And how much, and that is how you will know how much you can do,
Yeah.
what you can do. And it's not necessary that only if you are a rescuer and you're
Hmm.
rescuing like 5 6 dogs is why you did a good
Yeah.
deed. Even if you're feeding the street dogs, I
Yeah,
think it's good.
absolutely. Yeah, I say the same thing when people come and are in two minds about adoption, and in the
Hmm.
schools also, that it's okay if you can't adopt or you're not
Yeah,
ready. Start
yeah.
by just feeding.
Yeah.
Just keep a bowl of food
Actually,
or
if
water.
we take one step back,
Hmm.
just be kind to them and don't harass them.
Don't
I
hurt
think
them.
that itself, just coexist.
Yeah.
I think that itself is
Yeah,
enough.
that's like the simplest
the
thing that you can
easiest
do.
thing that you
Yeah.
can do.
Yeah,
If that
exactly.
is how much you can do, also it is great.
And then slowly build up as per
Yeah.
your capacity. I think a very important point to note is that know your capacity, know
Yeah.
your extent, that how
Yeah.
much you can do,
Yeah.
and do as per your capability. You don't have to
Correct.
overdo or underdo it.
Absolutely.
Do
Yeah.
as much as you can, and
Yeah.
nobody has to think that you've done less or you've done too much.
Correct.
Do whatever you can
Yeah.
do. I think that's a very, very important point, to start slow, as you said,
Yeah.
instead of like jumping into it and then
Yeah.
not being confused like what to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Thank you for that insight. I'm sure everyone will get some kind of information from what you said. Now, coming to the last segment of our podcast, I'd like to delve into your journey in this, in the behavior training, animal behavior training course that you have taken. So, I believe you have you've gotten training under Shireen Thabar. And so, just could you first tell us a little about the institute that, and the
So,
course that you are doing?
I did canine behavior courses.
Mm-hmm.
So the course is all broke. It's it her. This is institute is called as
Coursework.
Canine Cares.
Okay.
The courses, there are multiple courses, so you can take like if you want to just for your own dog. Say suppose I went to her because my dog had separation anxiety issues, because we didn't train him really well in when it came to separation anxiousness or separation anxiety. I actually went to her for my dog first. And when I learned about separation anxiety and I did it for my dog, it worked, because I think what she taught was completely different from what the trainers have actually. I've been through 3, 4 trainers. It was very different, and what she taught, it worked in a month's time. He's less anxious. He can stay alone for hours. That I have trained him. I have trained him to stay alone for like 4 hours.
That's great.
Initially, he couldn't even stay alone for 10 seconds, and I'm not exaggerating. He could not stay alone. He used to follow me from room to room. And now he's absolutely fine. He can actually stay for 4 hours maximum
yeah.
comfortably. And then she has multiple other courses as well, like dog on dog aggression, leash pulling courses. Then there was this one long course that I did on advanced behavior. It's called the Advanced Canine Behavior course, where you learn about how the dog's brain works, how the nervous system works, their history, how the genes and all impact, what an innate behavior is, what a learned behavior is, about different breeds, not just one breed, but different breeds. That's how I also understood that all these street dogs here are all the Indian breeds coming from their
ancestors.
Yes,
and
their
history.
ancestors and all of that. Learned about all of that. There is a lot of science behind all of this, just like humans, how our emotions and all get triggered, how inside how we feel and all, how our brain works and all that. That's how it we learned for dogs, and that's what we use to modify behavior. That's how we use to modify behavior.
Right.
That is what was taught to us by her, and she knows everything. I don't think she's come across anything that she would say like, I don't know, I have not come across this dog. No, she knows everything. She knows in and out about how a dog, why a dog would behave like that. I think it was amazing working even learning under her. We are still in touch. She actually helps me as well with my dog's aggression. My dog also does not like other dogs so much, as in he's like very picky. He will like one dog, he'll not like the other dog. So that way he's very picky, and I've never really tried to socialize him, because he's clearly told me, I don't like it, why are you doing it? So I didn't socialize him at all. There also she's helping me. I thought that my dog was frustrated, which is why he's frustrated of other dogs. I just had one conversation with her, and she told me that he's scared. That's fear coming out, and which was true, as in when I trained him is when I understood that it's fear and not frustration. And all this I could actually also understand because of her courses that I did. She's actually on Instagram. She keeps posting on all these different courses, even as small as leash pulling, how to walk your dog, what are mental stimulation exercises that you can do to de-stress your dogs, all even smaller to even larger trainer courses also she gives, like practical trainer courses where you will have to go there and train with her. It's a full day trainer course that she gives. all of this, I think you can find her on
Yeah,
Instagram,
yeah.
and she's amazing. I
Yeah,
think.
they will definitely put up her and yours, both of your social links, so that people
Yeah.
can reach out to all
Yeah,
of you.
yeah.
Only. You mentioned seeing a gap where pet parents often struggle with behavioral issues. Can you elaborate a little on what are the gaps that you noticed, which is what also interested you to take up the course?
The gap is majorly on the misunderstanding that uh, people have, or pet parents have, of their dogs. There is a gap of understanding and lack of communication. It's easy to talk human to human because we know the words, but to talk to them, it's, I think there is a huge gap of communication there. Like how dogs are labeled as aggressive because they bark or they tend to bite, or how dogs are, there are hyperactive dogs. There are some dogs which are hyperactive.
Correct, correct.
Then there are some dogs which are very anxious. You will also come across dogs who are so, you will find that the dog is very calm and he's just sitting and lying in one place doing nothing. That is depression. But a lot of pet parents don't understand these things. They need to,
the reason behind this
the
kind of a
reason behind it,
behavior.
because the root cause is something that's very important. The why that we keep asking, that why is my dog like this? Why is he barking? Why is he being aggressive? Aggressive, even we get angry, right?
Yeah.
Even we are aggressive, we also get angry. Obviously, our innate behavior is not to go and hit people, although there are some people who would just take out something and hit. Dogs' innate behavior when it comes to aggression or fear is biting, that because that's a defense mechanism.
And that's their way of
Yeah,
expressing
that's a way of
yeah.
expression, which of course it's not acceptable, but we humans have domesticated them. Now we have to ensure that they are happily
Domesticated.
domesticated,
Trained to be domesticated.
trained to be domesticated. And I think a lot of these gaps can be filled with training. I still know a lot of people. Of course, the pet parents have the population of pet parents has actually increased a lot. A lot of people have started adopting dogs or buying dogs and all of that. But people are still not okay with spending money on training. They feel that, why do I have to spend so much to train this dog? It's okay if he's aggressive, I'll just keep him inside the house. If he's fearful, I'll keep him inside the house.
The quick fixes.
Quick fixes, which is not possible.
Which actually is not fixing the problem.
It's not fixing. You're just suppressing it and just keeping it somewhere. But the dog is not happy. No, the dog is not living. He's living in fear and anxiousness the entire time. I think that is where it needs that is where the professional training needs
education comes.
Yeah, because all these are actually everything can be fixed. Everything that the parents come and say that it's a problem or it's a concern is fixable, but it will take time.
It'll take time, it'll take effort.
Yes.
It'll take some amount of financial investment.
Correct.
Because having a dog is, of course, investing a lot of your money, your time, your emotions, everything. It's a culmination of both. Definitely agree with you there. And I also kind of strongly believe that, I said this earlier also, that it is important for, not for all dogs maybe, but for certain families and for certain dogs, for certain lifestyle, this training, professional training is important. Even because, it's the same thing when you're sending your children to school, it is an investment that you're doing. You are paying, and school fees, we all know. I think parents, people who have children, human children, they know how draining it is monetarily to send children to schools now. But you are doing it because that's the way you bring up a child.
Correct.
And that's the kind of training, even if you can homeschool a child. But in India, we don't have that concept of homeschooling, right? You would want your child to be educated by professionals, by teachers, by trainers. It's the same thing when it comes to pet parents. I don't expect non-pet parents to agree or understand that, but for pet parents for whom pets are their children, they should be able to understand the requirement of professional training at times, depending on the condition and the nature of the dog.
Correct.
it is as equal to, what I want to say is that it's as equal to sending your human child to school.
School to learn, absolutely.
Yeah.
See, you might not, the pet parent might not need training, but your dog needs training. He
Yeah.
needs to understand,
Yeah.
because
And
he's
you are
a
not
wild
the
animal.
trainer, so you are not a
Yeah.
professional trainer to train the dog.
Yeah.
Definitely
Yeah.
agree with you there. Like you said, we were also coming to that part. Any specific behavioral trait that you come across, which is like very frequent? Most of the clients come to you with that kind of a behavioral issue, which is a challenge for people, for which they seek help, or you think training is important in the initial days?
I have come with people, a lot of people have come up to me specifically for hyperactivity. A dog is very hyper. He will pull, and a hyper dog will keep jumping here and there on people, or he will pull a lot, continuously bark if the bell rings, or if he just hears something just passing by or people down, he'll keep barking. Those kind of issues are a lot that I have come across, where people don't understand that if your dog is hyper, that means he's not getting enough exercise. You have probably kept the dog
Non-stimulated.
non-stimulated. And there is also a myth what people think is that they take the dog for a walk, say twice, that's enough for them exercise. But I would highly recommend that if you want your dog to be stimulated, highly stimulated, mental stimulation is something that will tire your dog. No amount of physical exercise will actually tire the dog as much as a mental stimulation.
And that is not enough by just walking.
Honestly, a 1 hour of walk is equal to a 15 minute of mental stimulation exercise that you do.
That's a big gap.
That's a huge gap. And dogs need mental stimulation. No?
Yeah.
They need their brains to work, right? If they don't need, if their brain doesn't work, how will they know what is happening? How will they problem solve? If something comes to them, how will they problem solve? And a hyperactive dog is highly stressed. So you need to do mental stimulation to de-stress them. There are so many de-stressing activities that your dogs can do. And you actually don't need to do anything at all.
Yeah.
All you have to do is put that exercise for them and they'll figure it out on their own. It's just a 15 to 20 minutes, or I would say 20 minutes as in 10 minutes, 10 minutes if you're doing it twice in the day. Just spend that much of time and your dog will be super happy.
Just out of curiosity, one little tip also I would like to have from you, and this is out of our syllabus questions. It's just that, like, a lot of people, even including my Shih Tzu, this typical habit of digging too much, like digging on the bed, digging on the couch. I assumed, of whatever I could basic understanding of googling it, is because they are full of energy at that moment and they want to take out that energy. As you're a therapist, that you're an expert in that, just like a small tip if you can give, what is the behaviors that we need to understand if a dog is digging too much?
Digging is an innate behavior. The dogs do dig. If you see, there are a lot of street dogs, if there is a pile of mud, they will dig and they will actually find comfort there. If you see, I have a dog in my society, but it's a very common innate behavior. If, say, something that the dog has found, something very precious to eat or something, they will dig, they'll hide the treat so that they save it for later. So those are all some innate behaviors that the dogs have. It's not necessary that the dog is stressed when it's digging. It can be for comfort, it can be for hiding, it can also be to release high energy. Like we say, zoomies. A lot of people think that zoomies dogs do because they are happy. It's not like that. Dogs actually do zoomies because they have a lot of energy in them and they want to release it. Similarly, people think that humping is basically they want to have a mate or something. No, they're releasing stress. They're actually highly anxious and stressed, which is why they are humping. If a dog just goes and sees another dog and he has, say, dog to dog aggression, he'll come home and he'll hump. That doesn't mean that dog wants to go and mate the other dog. He's stressed. He got anxious seeing another dog. It depends on what that digging or that humping or
Yes.
the zoomies are for the
Yeah,
dog.
yeah.
It could be comfort. If your dog is, say, doing digging here and he's wanting to, and then he sits there, could be comfort.
Correct. Correct. Such important cues, and these are very common, right? That
Yeah.
and often pet parents get very like nervous ki why it is happening, including myself.
Yeah.
Even if I have been working with pets for so long, but still I don't have a professional training as of now. But
Yeah.
with little bit of understanding and reading about it, I also like know. But sometimes when I also see my dog digging constantly, and it's been say 15 minutes, she's digging, I actually start picking her up and distracting her.
If
But
it
then
goes on for a long time,
Yeah.
it could be stress.
stress, yeah.
Yes.
Or and sometimes what I'm trying to say is that nervousness, if the dog is having at that moment, passes on to me also. Obviously, I'm a
Yeah.
layman, so I
Yeah.
wouldn't know the exact cause. That's where I want to say that's where you know that you need to contact or
Yeah.
connect
Yeah.
with a trainer,
Yeah.
behavioral
Yeah.
trainer, who will assess the dog and maybe will be able to give you the insight that what could be the reason, because
Yeah.
there sometimes there could be a medical reason also associated with
Of
it. I'm just,
course,
like,
of
saying,
course.
yeah.
Actually, the first thing as behaviorists, we say that anything which is happening on a very, you say for 15-20 minutes she'll keep on digging, or if the dog say just pees out of excitement, hyper dogs usually just pee out of excitement. We first actually go and tell if it is too much, it's very it's something that's not controllable or something. We
Yes.
first actually say that go take a medical expert advice. See if it has actually a medical reason that is
Yeah. If not, then you come to a
then you
behavioral.
actually we can
Yeah,
do
it's
that.
just like how mental health is stigmatized,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like you can sometimes have anxiety and how do I say, headaches and blackout spells due to say potassium
Yeah,
down
yeah.
or something, but it can also be the cause of anxiety or a
Correct.
panic attack.
Correct.
So you have to rule out both aspects.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
whenever it comes to animals, I don't know why people, again, when
I
it comes
know.
to behavioral, it's like
Yeah.
therapy for dogs, right?
Yeah.
So people kind of pull back. I think that if at all I in future I can take adoption drives and stuff to a bigger level, I would definitely want to make a behavioral trainer to be a part of the adoption assessment process as a mandate.
Yeah.
I think all rescuers or all big organizations who does assist in adopting should make the presence of a behavioral therapist a mandate and should be a part of the assessment process of the adoption. I think because that will, I think, solve the problem of retaining the adopters, having less returns from adopters. If in the beginning only,
Absolutely, yeah.
in the beginning only a therapist is present, and while you are doing the assessment, you do the house checks and stuff, the person goes, the expert goes with you as a part of the adoption process, and so that also gives a, how do I say, comfort and credibility and assurance to the pet parent also who's adopting,
Yeah.
because initially they will have a lot of questions and they'll be scared and unsure.
Yeah.
If the the presence of a behavioral trainer, dog trainer, is present in the adoption process, I think adoption returns would also come down. This is definitely something that I think I will take it up if at all I can take up adoptions, like all of this process to a bigger level someday. I would definitely want to take this up and make mandate of a behavioral therapist being there.
Right now there is a stigma. I know there's a lot of people who don't want to train their dogs because they've just got it for a lot of people just get it for fun, and
they don't want to invest.
they don't want to invest a lot because they are already investing by getting the dog and they are doing that. Of course that has to change, and I think that's also slowly changing in people right now. Hopefully there'll be one day where the government itself passes a law that if you get dogs, you have to mandatorily send them to school or train them.
I wish, but I think that's like a long way to go, considering the situation that we are facing in terms of legal and law enforcement and stuff like that. But thank you so much for giving us this knowledge and a little bit of insight on what training is all about. And if you can give us like a small story of having any such client whom you have helped with their pet's training, and due to which their relationship with the pet has changed drastically.
The example that I was giving you for hyper for an hyperactive dog. That they were actually a client of mine. That dog was basically, when I say hyper, he used to jump a lot on people, on just stuffs, in the sense that if he's say resting there, and if the owner just gets up, he used to become very happy and excited. Then if somebody just walks in, or they were living in an apartment, so someone is actually even walks in or comes out of the lift, he used to keep on barking. The bell rang, he kept on barking. And even if he saw children playing outside from the balcony, he would actually bark. He was not resting at all. There was absolutely no rest. And it's for some reason his body, he showed like his body didn't need. So the parents actually came across me through a friend, and they tried to when they explained it to me, they actually wanted me to train him for a very different thing, like a basic behavior training and all of that. For example, how to sit or something, or how to for leash pulling and all. Basic behavior training is what they came. And when I met the dog, and when we understood that, because they had gone to different trainers before, and he did not have that, they were not very successful. They came across me through a friend and all, and they told me the story that he's highly energetic and food motivated. He loves to play, he loves to run, he loves animals, he loves dogs and people. He keeps jumping on them happily and all of that. That's when I understood that this dog is not able to learn because he has no rest. Because even in the night when everyone's sleeping, if he hears something,
He'll be awake.
He'll be awake. He's barking. He has no rest. And right now that they have got the dog new in the sense the dog was with them for like 4 5 months, I suppose, because they were they had tried training him also through other trainers. And that's and because if this keeps on going, the dog will become aggressive. No, he'll become aggressive at one point, because not everybody is reciprocating the way that he wants them to reciprocate. He goes and jumps on dogs. What if he jumps on one dog and the dog comes to bite him? This guy will become traumatic, and he will also do that. He'll also become aggressive. That's when we understood that we had to first de-stress the dog. We had to calm him down first. And that itself took almost a month. Once he was calm and not stressed, indoors, first we did indoors.
Then outdoors.
Once we did indoors, we did the basic indoor behavior thing that a dog should do. He stopped peeing later when he saw someone, or when the bell rang. He stopped barking. He stopped peeing when people got excited. The peeing thing, actually, I went and told the pet parents that get it medically checked first, because we don't know, it could be some infection as well that he's peeing and all. So which was not. It was basically his hyperactive only. And then we did the basic. When you do the basic behavior training itself, the actually dog will also calm down. He'll know what right and wrong is. And then we go and take him outside. We had to do the de-stressing thing outside as well for him. And then teach them on leash pulling, on how to do all of that, how to not react when somebody passes by, be it a dog or a human. It was a long process that we did, and he became absolutely calm inside the house. Outside the house, 70% he's become calm actually. Outside the house, he still wants to go play with other dogs, because he's very friendly. Retriever. He's a retriever. He still wants to go. He stopped pulling, obviously, but when he sees a dog, he just wants to go play with them. That is something that we are still working on, to calm the dog, to not react so much. But see, any behavior that a dog is there, we can't completely. I won't say it's fixable. There's no fix. It only can be modified,
managed.
If say something, a dog is biting on say a furniture, you can't stop him from biting. You have to just give something else so that he bites something else.
Him.
So he knows that the furniture is bad, but this is good.
So biting a furniture is unacceptable, but the toy or something,
that is good. We won't say that we are fixing a behavior or making it completely opposite, black and white, but
Hmm.
we are modifying it and changing the dog's
Excellent.
mind.
Yeah.
And we are making the brain work in such a way that, oh no, if I go here, it is not right. But if I do this, oh my God, I'm getting rewarded.
Hmm.
We are taking the same behavior but putting it somewhere else.
Correct. Of course, definitely there's a lot of science behind it and
Yeah,
understanding time, patience.
yeah, yeah.
And like you said, quite hats off to the family also who devoted their
Yeah,
time to a
yeah,
longer process. And like every dog may take different amount of time,
correct.
but it is definitely something which works
Yeah.
in the long run. For everyone who wants to become a pet parent, you should know what it entails and the amount of time and patience that you have to give, but that should not be a reason to not want to adopt. That
Yeah.
should be something that you are doing. Like you said, even if you are rescuing a dog or you're buying a dog, you should know when you're getting the dog home, for a rescued dog, the rescuing continues through
Yeah,
this. These are all
yeah,
part of the
yeah, yeah,
rehabilitation.
yeah.
And for a dog, if you're buying it from a breeder or whatever, which is not advisable, but if you do, and you need to get them trained, that's also a part of taking care
Yeah,
of the dog
yeah,
lifelong,
yeah,
which is a huge responsibility. And
yeah,
but just like you would take care of your child, you know, it's the same
yeah,
for a dog.
yeah, yeah.
With that, I think we've it's been a full circle for me, this interview, because I have also learned so many small bits and pieces.
Yeah,
And obviously with more such conversation and exposure and awareness also in
yeah,
your
yeah,
field of work, will can do wonders for
yeah.
the pet community. Thank you so much for bringing out time and sitting here and having these conversations, and we had a lovely time having
Yes.
you with us. And anything else to before we end, if any message that you would want to give to your, to the people who are viewing, any advice from you to someone who wants to do any such canine behavior course. And so that's one message. And anything that you would want to let people know if they want to connect with you.
Anybody who wants to do the course, it's an amazing thing you're doing. The animal industry is growing so much now, and it's growing very rapidly. I think you should, if you're an animal lover and would want to do something here, do take courses. You can reach out to me, or you can on my Instagram, or you can reach out to the people who are giving these courses. I did mention my instructor who is actually teaching me. She's from Mumbai. Her name is Shirin Dhabar. You can reach out to her. She gives a lot of courses online as well as offline. And also for people who want to train their dog, be it in behavior, basic training, you can always reach out to me on my Instagram as well as my email ID.
Thank you so much for watching this episode, and thank you to our guest Shweta, who took out time and spent these hours with us. I think it was a very insightful episode, and we got to know a lot about the importance of training, or what canine behavior training does to families with pets, and how beneficial it can be. I would truly recommend anybody who is going through a phase where you want to understand your dog or your cat better, please do connect with Shweta for more information and understanding on how our consultations work. You can reach out to me also in case if you want to get connected to her, or reach out to her directly. We will make sure we mention her contact information as email and Instagram here on the video. And thank you so much for watching us. We will come back with another insightful and informative video very soon. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and follow us on Instagram and on YouTube. Thank you so much for loving us and watching our podcasts. Thank you.